Don't even spend $35, $45 for a new cookbook. And this is my absolute favorite. Hey there, welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're going to be talking about cookbooks, and I'm going to share with you my favorite cookbooks and why they're my favorite. So let's get started. The first thing that I look for in a cookbook is when I thumb through it, the ingredients need to be readily available, they need to be affordable, and the recipe needs to be where I can understand it. As long as those three things are there, I will generally pick up that cookbook. Randy calls me a cookbook hoarder, okay? And my daughters too. Anyway, I love cookbooks. You know, even the fad ones. You know, I even do the fad ones. I hardly ever use them, but I have them. But my go-tos are these here. They're all from the 70s and 80s. Some of them from the 60s. You know, it just, the way they used to cook is the way I prefer to cook and eat. You know, it just, and that all depends on you. You know, if you were born in the 90s or the 2000s, then you need to find these style recipes because that's what you grew up eating, and that's what you need to put in your pantry. Everybody's pantry is different depending on what they eat. Now, you know, here it's pretty southern. You know, I mean, I grew up with my granny in South Georgia, so, you know, southern fat cooking is what I do. But, you know, if you live somewhere else and that was never a part of your diet or what you did, then you need to find cookbooks that have the ingredients that you use that are readily available to you and don't cost a ton of money, and that's what you stock in your pantry. So, the first one, this one is so cool, y'all. This is one of the first cookbooks I ever got. That's why it's all stained and yucky and dirty looking. It's really old. But it's the Reader's Digest Quick Thrifty Cooking. You know, the very first page gives you common substitutions for anything that you would need. If you need buttermilk, it tells you how to make buttermilk. If you need flour, if you need self-rising flour and you only have all-purpose, it tells you how to make it. It tells you what bread flour is. It just has a whole list of frequently needed substitutions right in the front. Then you go on and it has, I'm not wearing no glasses, so if I put it on the wrong page or something, y'all just have to bear with me. But like this one is menus for one-stop shopping, and then it gives you what you need to pick up to make that dish. And then when you go to the grocery store, then you just pick up those items. But most of the time, generally you already have them. I mean, you know, you might need to pick up one item or something when you go on your regular shopping trip and then put that recipe on that week's menu plan. You know, it has how to menu plan. It has one-stop shopping for the week. It has tips and tricks, 15-minute recipes, and it goes through and it tells you where all the 15-minute recipes are in here. If you're really snapped for time, it tells you that. And just, okay, like, here we go. Indian chicken, all right. Oh, and this book also tells you if it has a little piggy bank above the recipe, that means it's a money saver. If it has a little circle, that means you can cut the recipe in half. And it has a little clock if it's a time saver. You know, sometimes you can meet all three. You know, it'll be a money saver, a time saver, and an easy fix. You know, and the recipes are, you know, not very long. They don't have a ton of ingredients. They're all readily available, and the how you make it is step by step, and it's in nice big writing so you could look over when you could see. and you can just look over and follow it to the T. You know, so this one is absolutely my all-time favorite. And I think I'd have to look to tell you what year this thing was written. Let me go over here to my little trusty handy dandy notes. This one, the copyright was 1985, which was right after, you know, I had moved out and started being a new wife and a new mom, and this was a lifesaver. You know, growing up with my granny like I did, you know, I had a pretty good grasp of everything I needed in the kitchen and how to cook certain things. But when I got out on my own and it was just me, well, I needed a little help. I didn't remember every little thing she ever did, so cookbooks became invaluable to me. And, you know, like this one, this was the very first one that I ever found at a thrift store, and it was the very first one that, you know, taught me how to put a meal together by myself, and it was great. And from there, I just went crazy with cookbooks. Okay, this one is the Southern Living Cookbook. It's from 1987, and when you open it up, the very first thing is cooking basics. I mean, cookbooks used to be something that you would give as a wedding gift, you know, at the bridal showers. These were very, very important to new housewives and mothers, because they, you know, if you didn't know anything, you know, it was all right here. You know, they have cooking basics. They explain to you what each item that you need to have in a well-run kitchen. They tell you, you know, what you need in equipment. They tell you about small appliances, your knives. They even have a section, because this was 1987, on a microwave oven. Now, I don't own a microwave. I haven't owned a microwave in probably 25 years. I don't want irradiated food. But, you know, if you want to microwave your food, it gives you instructions on how to do that. You know, it tells you about staples and what you need to keep in your pantry at all times, so that you can just throw a meal together without stress. And, you know, tells you about food shopping, how much, you know. I don't have my glasses. This is, you know, a section on storing food, and it tells you what you need to store, you know, before you ever even get to a recipe. I mean, it's just full of information that a young person would need. You know, basic preparations. And then it explains what, you know, when they say to sift or not, you know, or measuring solid, shortening, or butter. And it explains how to do that. You know, I mean, it's just a wonderful, you know. Then there's a section on meal planning and how to put a meal together. And then it gives examples, you know, in here of recipes that are in the book. You know, and then a festive look at the table. Shows you how to do napkins if you're into that, you know, or, you know, if you had a dinner party or something, there it is. Anything you need to know right there. And then it starts appetizers and sandwiches, and then it talks about it, and then it gives you recipes. I mean, it's just a really good all around. There are tons of really good recipes in here. You know, and if you guys have been watching me for this long, like, subscribe, share, go down in the link below and buy us a coffee. We'd really like that. You know, what I really want to get across is, you younger people, when you're looking for a cookbook, the best place to find them, honestly, is thrift stores. They're between $1 and $5. You know, where a lot of these books, you know, if you buy them now, they're like $35, $45. That's a lot of money. You can go find an older one and have a blast at the thrift store. You know, if you like to plunder like I do, you know, you can find just anything in a thrift store. And cookbooks are one of those things. They always have a book section, and they always have generally older books. Now, I did talk to one lady, and she said in her area where she lives that they don't really have a lot of cookbooks in their thrift stores. And that's terrible. You need to find a little town where you can find those, because they are such a wealth of information. If you find one that's all written in, that's the one to get. If somebody has made little notes all outside, you know, that where they swap this for that, that's what you need to look for, because that makes that book even better. Number 3 is from 1975. This one is really old, and it has really simple ingredients. It's the Southern Living Cookbook, Southern Country Cookbook from Southern Living. I say that 3 times. All right. Same thing. In the beginning, you know, it tells you, well, no, not this one. This one doesn't. Y'all, I'm blind. Without glasses, I'm blind. And the glare on the glasses makes it hard for me to see under this light. So, but anyway, favorite old-time Southern foods. You would never cook these. Never, ever in 100 years you would cook these. I mean, this is like, you know, things like, you know, what is the first? The first one, barbecued goat, hogshead cheese, chitlins, fried salt pork. You know, those are old-time foods, and we did. I remember my granny making every one of those, but would I cook it? No. But when you go into the rest of it, they're normal, everyday recipes that you would use all the time, and they're, like I said, they have minimal ingredients, very little instruction, easy to do, and it's just, for me, that's a winner. All right, this one I have shown y'all this one before. This is that 1968 canning and freezing book, and not only does it have canning and freezing recipes in it that have stood the test of time and still work. I've never had an issue with making anything in this book ever. Well, it also has meals that you can, freezer meals, and those recipes, I never freeze them. I'm not into freezer meals. That's not a thing for me, really. I mean, I might stick some leftovers in a mason jar and stick it in the freezer, but that's about as close to a freezer meal as I'm going to get. But the recipes for those freezer meals are really, really good. So that's what makes this one of my favorites. But you do have to know some basics to use this book, because it's not super explanatory. It kind of just tells it like it is and lets you go, you know. So you would really need to have some canning and freezing and cooking ability before you try to use this book, because the instructions are not that great. I mean, they're okay for me because I know what I'm doing, but until you get to that point, this one might not be for you, okay? This one is called the All-New Good Housekeeping Cookbook. And even though it looks like the worst one in the bunch, this one is actually from 2000. But I have used it so much, and it has got wet. You know, it sit on the counter, and I would pour stuff on it, and it must not have had that great of a backing to begin with, because this one I've had for years and years and years, and it is still good. So I don't know what's up with this one. But anyway, this one is from 2001, and it's the All-New Good Housekeeping Cookbook. Same thing. Recipes are very minimal ingredients, easy to understand how to put it together, and readily available ingredients. And it has like well over 1,000 recipes. I mean, it's truly, And most of them, if I've made it and I make it again, it doesn't look anything like what was in the book, but it still tastes good. You know, always do it right the first time, and then I change it around to suit what we like after that, because that's easy to do. You just substitute this or that, leave this or that out. You know, it's really easy to do. Same thing, they give really good instructions on how to do something, and they have, you know, illustrations to show you how to do it, what it's supposed to look like. You know, it's just a really good cookbook. And same thing in the beginning, it has, you know, substitutions, measurements, anything you would need to know. And what else? Let's see what else. Yep, basics. Yep, this basics is kind of like the other Southern Living. Gives you everything that you would need to know on how to run your kitchen or get your kitchen started. Tools, you know, how to set a table, you know, if you need to know how to set a table. Okay, next one in line is also a Reader's Digest. This one is from 1994, and it's called Down Home Cooking, the New Healthier Way. And it's not necessarily the recipes in this book that I like, but if one of my kids calls and asks me a question, or, you know, anybody in general, at the back of this book is how to use spices, what to do with them, you know, what they're used for. It has a back to basics section, almost just like the other one, and everything you need to know is right there. How to cut a chicken, how to cut vegetables, how to make bread dough. I mean, anything that you would need to know is in the back of the book. So I keep this book not necessarily for the recipes, but for all the information inside of it, which seems a little silly, but that's what I keep it for. This one I've also did a review on. This is the original Fannie Farmer 1896 cookbook. You want to talk about scratch? This is scratch. It is from 1896. Okay, all the recipes are simple, unbelievably shelf stable. Nothing has more than 4 or 5 ingredients. Well, some of them do. There's some pretty fancy stuff in here, you know, for restaurants and such, but everything you need to know is in this book for scratch cooking. But it is not, it may not be new cook friendly because of the way that they, you know, the way the instructions read. But if you take one of these books and you learn how to do something, then you go back and get this book, and then you fully understand it, and then it becomes just a wealth of information. The next one is also a Reader's Digest. It's over here, and the same thing. I keep this one for the same thing. It's called Creative Cooking. I would never make any of these recipes. I'm not gonna lie to you. I would never make any of these recipes. It was supposed to be, you know, from month to month, to enjoy in-season food, okay? And so it has February, March, April, May, and then it, you know, the fish, the poultry, the vegetables that are there in that time. That's not why I keep this book. I keep the book because the back of half of the book in the back has all the really good recipes and all of the good information on how to do just about anything. I mean, it is just a total wealth of information. See, like it just, anything you would ever need to know about cooking is in the back of the book. So I keep it for that. And it really is a great resource book. And it's called, well, Creative Cooking, that's what it's called. And they are pretty the recipes from January to December are very creative, y'all. They are. But the back of the book is so full of information that I keep it. And then y'all know I tell y'all all the time about finding old church cookbooks, because they are the best. These little old ladies sign their name to these books, to those recipes, because their family enjoys them year after year after year. And they put those all together in these little cookbooks. And you know, I don't think I've ever made anything out of any one of these cookbooks that wasn't wonderful. And this one, this is from the Medart Assembly of God, which is about 15 miles from here, maybe, in Medart. Savory and Sage. This one's really cool because this one comes from the Garden Club. So not only is it full of recipes, it's also full of gardening tips and this and that and do this and when to plant. And so, you know, it's thick. It's got lots of recipes. You know, well, I found it at a thrift store and I probably paid $2 for it. But I have really thoroughly enjoyed it. This one is called Sop Choppy Country Cooking, and this one is from 1968. Almost all, I'm pretty sure, I don't think anybody's left living that did this cookbook, because most of them were, you know, I knew a lot of them and they were really old when the cookbook came out, but they all came from the Depression on. It's just a beautiful little book, okay? Yeah, it'll make you cry. You know, and Sop Choppy is like 15 miles from here too, you know. It's just wonderful. This one, I'm not sure where it came from, but I've had it 20 years. It's called Heavenly Recipes. And they didn't even, you know, I don't know if Randy can get a close-up of this or not. This one wasn't even printed like a cookbook. They actually typed it. So it has all kinds of typos, and the typewriter wasn't that great they were using. And then they just reprinted the type. And you know, it came out like that, but the recipes are still good, you know. It has, you know, I've had to bind it with duct tape to hold it together because it's falling apart now, but, you know, they're just wonderful little old, you know, and it has, like, oh, which one? I think it's, anyway, they're just, find you some old cookbooks, because you know, most of them have little helpful hints, and they have substitutions. You know, a lot of times they'll have a page with different substitutions on them. You know, I use this instead of that, or you know, if you don't like this, put this in it. For all my talk about all these cookbooks, they are guidebooks, not rule books. If there's an ingredient in there you don't like, leave it out. You're not going to miss it because you didn't like it. If there's something that you don't have, it's okay. Try it anyway. You may like it. You know, if you found any of this helpful or creative or whatever, you can watch the next video. And thank y'all so much for supporting us, and I'll see you up there. Bye.